If you're like me and you have thousands of pounds worth of equipment in your home, it could be a good idea to get some kind of security system. But I know what you're thinking. Security systems are expensive and complicated and you've got to wire them up to your house and you just don't want to have to do any of that, right? Well, I think I may have the product for you. This is the EZVIZ CB8, a battery-powered security camera with 2K picture quality, pan and tilt, auto tracking, human motion detection, and of course it's weatherproof. But what's even better is the price. You can get this on Amazon right now for around £130, which is crazy cheap. You can use this camera entirely wire-free as it has a built-in battery that lasts up to 210 days, or you can pair it with the EZVIZ solar panel, and this will power your camera all year round. Now, although EZVIZ state that this camera will have a 210-day battery life, I would say that there are going to be a lot of factors that will change this, the weather, how much your camera is recording. So although 210 days is the given time, I don't know if I trust that. I think it's going to be varying a lot from user to user. So I think for me, the solar panel is a no-brainer. So before we take a look at the app and the product in more detail, let's look at what you get inside the box. Inside the box, you get the typical paperwork, including a quick start guide. You also get a drill template, as well as the screws and wall anchors, so you can get this on the wall. There's a micro USB to USB cable for charging. I personally wish that this was USB-C, as so many of my chargers now are purely USB-C. Then you have the camera itself, and as you can see, it's not that big at all. That being said, it's definitely not discreet, so having this spherical CCTV camera outside your house might spook your neighbours. So to get this mounted onto the wall, the camera actually comes in two parts. You get the backplate and the camera itself. And what you do is you mount the backplate to the wall, and then the camera slides on and snaps into place. Now, I do wish that there was some kind of screw to keep these two together, because in theory, anybody could just climb up to your house and take this camera off the wall. Although they'd have to be quite brave to see a camera, put a ladder up against the wall, and then take it off. On the underside of the camera, you'll find the power button, as well as a USB port that has a cover. You'll also find the slot for the micro SD on the camera as well, and to access this, you do need to use a screwdriver, unscrew this little compartment, then you can access the SD card slot, plug in the SD card, and you're ready to start recording. Now, I do recommend putting a micro SD card in this, even though there is a cloud recording option, and we'll get to that later. And in terms of max memory, the CB8 supports up to 256 gigabytes. Now, EZVIZ advertises that this product has a 360-degree field of view, and you do get that mostly. It actually rotates around 340 degrees, and I suppose that's fine because you're not going to want to record the wall that the camera's mounted on. No one's going to be coming to your house from the walls, so that's not really a problem. The camera also has 65 degrees of vertical tilt. As well as sending me the camera, EZVIZ were kind enough to send me the solar panel as well, but in terms of the unboxing, there's nothing really to talk about. It's basically just a solar panel, and like the camera, you do get the wall anchors, screws, and a drill template, and you also get this nice wall mount so you can angle the solar panel how you want. Before installing this camera outside, I recommend doing the initial setup. So pairing the CB8 with the app is incredibly straightforward, and the app does guide you through all of the different settings during setup. So the app you want is called EZVIZ, and you can get this from the Apple Store and the Play Store. When you open the app, you're prompted to add a device, and you'll see this list. For the CB8, you want to select the top option. You'll then be asked to scan the QR code on the camera itself. That's why I said you want to do this before you set this up and mount it on the wall. This only takes a few seconds to complete. Just click on add when you know that it's picked up the right camera. You can then adjust a few device settings, so whether you want to hear audio and the device's time settings. Now, once that's done, hit next, and you'll be asked to create an encryption password. Now, I actually skipped this for now, as you can do it later, but I recommend doing this the first time. Next, you'll get a reminder to remove the protective film from the front of the lens, which I'm sure most people have already done by this point. Now, the next setting is the working mode, so you get 5 different options here. Personally, I prefer either the high performance or power saving. Now, I have the solar panel, so in theory I could use the power plugged in mode, but I don't really want the camera to continuously record. There are other options. You can even configure modes for different periods of the day as well. And bear in mind, if you don't have the solar panel, these different modes will affect your battery life. Now, once you're happy with this setting, you can continue to the next page where you can adjust the detection sensitivity. This is a great way to ensure that the camera isn't just needlessly recording absolutely everything. If you select a close detection distance, it'll only start recording if someone comes right up to your house. But if you have a long driveway, for example, you might want this at a further distance so the camera will record people approaching your property. Now, once you've selected next step, that's it, you've completed the initial setup. During this initial setup, you'll also be asked to sign up to CloudPlay, which is EZVIZ's online cloud storage platform for your recordings. Now, I did this the first time and got a 7-day free trial, and it's pretty handy having your footage upload to the cloud, but once the trial ends, this does turn into a monthly or yearly membership. Personally, I prefer having an SD card in here anyway, because you can always access your footage when there's no internet or anything like that. So now you've completed the initial setup, you're ready to get this camera mounted to the outside of your house. Now, where you put this is entirely up to you. I live in a terraced house with a bay window, so if I put this on one side of the house, it would block the front door. Obviously, I don't want that, so what I did is I mounted this directly above the front door of the house. Now, I found installing the CB8 incredibly easy, which was helped with the drill guides that you get inside of the box. That being said, my drill basically blitzed the guide anyway, and in case you're wondering what size drill bit to use, I used a 5.5mm bit. So once I had all 4 holes in the wall, I put in the wall anchors and attached the backplate. The next step was simply attaching the camera, and it's as simple as that. I say the setup took me less than 30 minutes in total. As for the solar panel, mounting this to the wall is virtually the exact same process as the camera, so I'm not going to bore you with watching that. Now, one complaint I have with the solar panel itself is the fact that the USB at the back of it is permanently attached. You can't unplug it and use a shorter USB cable, for example, which for me is a bit problematic as the solar panel is quite close to the camera, which means I had loads of USB cable left over, and as you can see, I had to wrap it around the mount of the solar panel, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it just doesn't look very tidy. In the future, it would be great to see EZVIZ make a solar panel with a detachable USB, and that way customers can use whatever USB cable they want. Now, once the camera is installed, you're pretty much ready to go. You've already done the initial setup for most of the settings, but there are a few things worth tweaking. So for this next part of the video, I'm going to go through the app step by step and show you some of those features. Now, I understand that some features are less important to people than others, so if you want to skip certain parts, feel free to. I've added chapter markers below. So let's take a look at the app. So this is the EZVIZ app, and I do think that it can be a little bit intimidating at first. There's just so much going on, but I'm going to try and make it super simple, and I'm going to start from the top left. So with the little user icon here at the top left, this brings up your settings, your main kind of information and things like that. So from here, you can go to your album. This is basically where your manually recorded clips are stored, and the automatic clips from the camera's detection are in a different part of the app that we'll look at in a second. The next option is your settings, and from here you've basically got your profile settings, you've got your language, whether or not you're dark mode or not, shortcut management, so you can change the shortcut for the app on your home screen and things like that. Then you've also got email alerts, then you've also got device auto upgrade. I've got that on enabled to make sure that the camera is always up to date. Then you've got your saved device parameters, so I don't really know what this does, to be quite honest. It just says when enabled you can watch videos in an easier way, whatever that means. Then you have sync layout style, and essentially this means that from phone to phone, if you were to install this app on another phone, the layout would be exactly the same, and that's really handy if you have customized it to your liking. Then you've got your device network tools, and that's basically your Wi-Fi configuration and checking the Wi-Fi signal. Next, you've got your LAN live view, and this is so you can hook up multiple different devices. I don't have this, so I don't need to use this feature. Then you have your storage, and basically this shows you how much EZVIZ is using. This is just your phone storage, and this includes the app itself, the cache, and any footage you've recorded via the app manually, not the automatic stuff that's recorded to the SD card. Then you have your system permission settings, and this is basically where you can enable things like notifications. You can enable EZVIZ to access your contacts, your position, allow running in the background, and so on. I have most of these enabled because it makes the experience of using the camera a lot easier, especially notifications, so you can get those notifications on your phone when someone or something is detected by the camera, and it will give you a notification. And that is pretty much it for your main settings. So we can go back to the menu here. Then you have your family and guests. And essentially this is just how many family members you've shared your camera with. And you can click on add sharing to add another family member or friend or whoever you want to access your camera. Just enter their email address. They will get an invite and they can access your camera. This is really handy if you have an emergency contact that you want to give access to. Then we have CloudPlay, and essentially this brings up your CloudPlay subscription. Mine is currently expired. I just did the 7-day free trial, but if we click here, you get the landing page for CloudPlay and the option to subscribe. Now, I don't really think this is worth it, To be honest, I much prefer just using the micro SD card, but if you're someone that prefers living in the cloud and having all of your footage backed up that way, feel free to get one of these packages. I don't think they're super expensive. I think they're pretty affordable actually, but for me, I think an SD card is more than enough. So then you have your EZVIZ drive, and essentially you can only access this if you have Cloud Play. So for this video, I can't really show you anything to do with EZVIZ drive. Then you have your smart integrations, and this lets you connect EZVIZ to your Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, or IFTTT. Now, if you do have a smart device that has a screen, you can ask it to show the camera, and then you'll be able to see your camera on that smart device. And that is really cool to be able to just see the footage without going on the app on your phone. Now, the remaining options here on the menu are basically just app side in the sense of EZVIZ updates, help center, feedback, and live chat. So nothing really we need to look into. And that's pretty much it for the menu there on the left. So looking at the bottom now, we have our devices, our library, and automation. So this is already the devices tab. This is what it looks like. Library is essentially all of your clips, so you can go through each day, see what clips you have. You can see on some days here, there's been no recordings at all for whatever reason that is. And you also get the information about what recording it was. For example, here you've got PIR alarm, then some of the other smart detection alarm. That's just because I was playing about the different settings. I typically just use smart detection alarm. And then you have automation, and here you can set routines depending on certain things. However, I do think this is mainly for the products from EZVIZ, such as their light bulbs and things like that. I don't think you can set any automations with the cameras. So down here at the bottom right, you can see this little shield icon, and essentially this enables you to arm and disarm the camera. So in armed mode, you will get notifications when someone comes in the field of view. If you disarm it, you won't. So this is handy if you're staying inside, you don't want to see notifications all day. Then if you decide to go out and you do want to receive notifications, then you can arm the camera. And that's pretty much it. So at the top right, we have these two options. The first one is to change the layout style. So here you can have expand, condensed, and list. I guess this is useful if you have a lot of different devices and you don't want all of them to take up a lot of space and you just want a condensed or list view. For me, I prefer expanded because I can see the camera right here in a preview. If we click on the plus icon, there you get the option to add a new device. So you can scan a QR code, you can create a new space, or you can share to family and guests. So let's now go to the camera settings. So first you want to just click on your cameras like this. And it does take a little while to sync up, so you get that live preview. And this is actually a live feed now. So this is what's going on right outside my house as I'm recording this video. Now you can see underneath that you can scroll through various clips throughout the day. So these are all clips that have been recorded because the camera has detected motion near my house. So you can see here, each clip has someone walking about. And this is essentially what you'll receive all day as long as your camera is armed. You can also skip through different dates as well, so you can go back to previous days and see what kind of footage was recorded. If something happened, like your house was, I don't know, robbed or something, you can always go back and look at those things, or maybe it was vandalized, you can go back in time and look at what potentially happened there. So that's a really handy feature to have. Now on the right hand side here, you can see the SD card icon. We can switch to cloud, and of course I'm reminded to get a subscription because I'm not currently subscribed to Cloud Play, but if you were subscribed, you would see your cloud clips here. What's also nice is when you're viewing clips, you can also click on snapshot or record, so you can get sort of evidence, I suppose, if you needed to for whatever reason, but that's a good feature to have as well, to just watch back clips and take a quick screenshot or record a segment of the footage. Okay, so switching back to the live view now, at the bottom here, you can see a bunch of different features. So again, we have snapshot and record. So you can take one image that's just a still image, or you can record for however long you want. Then you have PTZ, and that's basically your pan and tilt. So if I tilt upwards, you can see here that the camera goes up, tilt downwards, the camera goes downwards, left and right, and so on. It's pretty self-explanatory. But one thing I really like about this app is that you can save specific locations. So right here on the right, you can see this little star icon. And here you can see I've got front of house. So if I click on that, the camera will move to the front of the house. And if my car was parked outside of the house, I could click on cars and it will move up to where my car would usually be parked. Again, that's a really great feature to have, so you can set these custom locations to monitor specific areas outside of your house. But I'll go back to front of house now because that I find is the most important for me to be able to see who's coming and going. And if you do want to save a new location, you just click on preset locations at the bottom and then it will save a new position. So coming out of pan and tilt, you also have the talk option. I'm not going to click on that because what happens is you actually get a two-way talk. So I can hear what's going on outside, but if I press talk, I can actually speak through a speaker to whoever is outside. Now, I guess this is useful if, I don't know, you're in the kitchen or something, a courier comes to the house, got a parcel, but you need to say, oh, I'm going to be a couple of minutes, my food's burning, you know, and and then you can go to the door when you need to. Other than that, I don't really know what this feature would be good for. Maybe yelling at people that are hanging about your house, I don't know, and you don't want them to be. It is a good feature to have, but I really want to avoid using it. I think it's kind of weird. I think people get a little bit creeped out by that, you know, some piece of technology speaking to them. It's a little bit strange for some people, so I tend not to use it, but it's definitely a good feature to have anyway. Next, we have definition, and as you can imagine, this is just to choose the definition that you want. You've got Quad HD, Full HD, and High Def. Now, what that is essentially 2K, 1080p, and 720p, and most of these are pretty good, but I just leave it on Quad HD anyway because it's the best of the three. But I suppose if you're conscious of saving disk space, you could lower the resolution if you wanted to. Then you also have 360 picture. So I can take a 360 picture if I want to. And you can see here that this is processing. So we'll just leave this for a second while it's doing that.
1 week later.
And there you have the 360 picture. It's not really 360. It's more like a 180. But, you know, that's still pretty cool, I guess. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but it's a feature on the app anyway. So next you have the alarm. Again, I'm not going to turn this on because if I do and someone walks past the house, essentially it gives off an audible alarm that is quite loud. And that's pretty much it for the main features here down on the bottom bar. Next, we're going to take a look at some of the icons here and what these mean. So if I tap on this, you can see these icons across the video. The first one at the top right is the battery life. So this is basically showing me that I've got a full charge and now I'm being powered by the solar panel. So that's pretty cool. Then I have the share button. Again, this is just invite family and guests. As you can see, there are some things on this app that sort of repeat themselves, which is part of the reason it can be a little bit confusing because there's an option to share it from 3 different menus so far. Then you have your main device settings. So from here, this is basically what you went through earlier with your main setup. So you have your working mode, which I've already been through. You've got your intelligent detection. This is where you can select PIR, infrared detection. Now, this basically works on heat, so I don't think it's going to be that reliable personally, and from what I've read online, it's not a very reliable way to have any kind of alarm system in place, so I just stick to human shape detection. Now, what is really cool about this is you can customize the sensitivity, which I've shown you already, but you can also add certain zones. So while that's just saving here for a second. So here you can see that I've got a specific zone set in the front of the house, and that should avoid it recording when people walk past just on the pavement. That being said, it has recorded quite a few different occasions of people just walking by and not actually being in this area. So I'm not sure maybe if that's not working correctly, or maybe where I've drawn it's not very good. And, you know, especially on the left here, you can see if they're walking by in that area, it'll start recording. But in general, this is really cool. And you can just, you can just draw the areas like this, and then you can erase them sort of when necessary, just get rid of what you don't want. So there you go, I've tidied that bit up there on the left a little bit, and that should avoid it recording, you know, when people are just walking by the house. So your next option is notifications, and here you've got device side and app side. Now device side would basically give an audible notification on the camera outside. Not really something I want, so I've left this on mute. I don't really need people again being spooked by a camera outside my house, but there are different options as well that you can select, like intensive, soft, or even have custom sounds, and you can also configure the audible warnings. Then you've got a light notification as well, so if someone gets detected by the camera lights will start flashing. Again, I've left that off. I don't want to annoy anybody or make people worried when they walk past the house. Then you've got app side. Now this is the important part where you can receive device messages. So you make sure you enable it so you get notifications inside of the app. Then you've got your device message interval, so how often you actually get notifications. And then you've got the EZVIZ app notifications, so you actually get push notifications to your phone when someone walks by in, you know, detectable areas. If you turn this off, you won't get those push notifications. So I definitely recommend keeping this on. You've also got a notification schedule, so you can choose when you want to actually receive notifications. I've got this set as all the time, but if you prefer to receive them just at night or just during the day, then you can do that as well. Then you've got offline notification, and I'm not really sure what this does. There's no way I'll be able to receive notifications if my phone was offline anyway, so I just leave this off. Then you've got your audio settings, and from here you can ensure that you're capturing audio both from live view and when you record footage. I've left this on because this is really handy to have so you can actually hear what's going on outside. If anything happened to your property and you needed to hear what was being said by people, then it's best to have audio on. Then you've got your device voice prompt. I don't know what this actually does. What I think it is when the device becomes low on battery, there's an audible voice and it will say, battery low or whatever. I don't really need that on because I have my solar panel. And to be honest, again, this is a feature I probably wouldn't want to have on in case people walk by and then the camera starts speaking to them. They're going to get creeped out by that. But I've left it on anyway, so whatever. Then you've got your image settings, and from here you can choose particular styles. So you can have the original style, a soft style, or a vivid style. There's also the night vision mode where you can customize whether or not you want color or black and white night vision. And if you choose color, how warm you want the footage to be. I've left this on quite warm. I think it looks better, and the night footage is great, and you'll see that in a minute. You've also got the OSD here, so when enabled, the OSD with the device name will be displayed on all of the videos captured by the camera. At the minute, I've left this off because I think the date and the time is more than enough. Then you have your light settings, and this is basically the camera status light. So when the camera is in a sort of standby mode, it's blue, and when it starts recording, it goes green. Now I've left this on, although I do think in terms of security, it's best to have this off, because if someone was, scouting your house and trying to figure out what your security system does, how it works, it would be pretty easy to notice that it's blue when it's not recording and it's green when it is. So I guess in the sense of security, it's probably best to leave this off, but I've left it on because, I'm not really worried about something like that happening. Then you've got your PTZ settings. Now, this is where you can enable human tracking, and I will show you an example of this later, but I leave this off and, well, you'll see why later. Then you've also got the option to calibrate, but I've not needed to do that yet, so I haven't touched this setting. Then you've also got your battery status, and I'm currently 100% charged by solar, as you can see, and this is great. I've had no issues with this at all. It's never disconnected. It's never just said, it's not charging anymore. There's been no issues between the solar panel and the camera, so I definitely recommend picking up the solar panel if you're interested in getting this. And then finally, you've got your general settings, which is your cloud play information, again, expired. You've got your recording list, cloud storage, expired, and you've got the memory card, which essentially shows you the amount of storage you have, and you can format it as well once this loads. Yeah, so from here you can see that I can either reformat it, and that's pretty much all I can do from this. Now, one option I'd really like to see in this app is maybe the option to delete specific dates. So I know that I don't need a recording from 2 weeks ago, I can just delete the whole lot. But I can't do that, you have to delete clips one by one, and I guess what most people will do is wait till this memory card gets full and then just reformat it when that happens. Then you have your security settings, so your video encryption, and then you can change your encryption password. Again, I recommend doing that right at the very beginning during the initial setup. I still haven't done it yet, but I will get to that soon. Then you've got your Wi-Fi settings, so what Wi-Fi network you're actually on, and you can do a Wi-Fi signal strength test as well. You can see here I've got a strong test, so that's pretty good. Then you've got your device information, which is handy for, if you need to contact support, give them your serial number or anything like that in your device version, that's handy to have. And finally, share device again, so the option to share with family and guests. So 4 different places where I can share this camera. And again, like I said, this app can be intimidating and confusing, and this is probably why. I don't need 4 different locations to do the exact same thing. It's unnecessary, it just clogs up the app. I think it can definitely be trimmed and made to be a little bit more streamlined, and I definitely think that EZVIZ should consider doing that because, it's just overly confusing for no reason. So heading back to the main live view, that's pretty much it. That is the app in its entirety. Hopefully this little guide walkthrough has been helpful. And that's pretty much it for the app. And as you can see, there are a ton of different features that, to be quite honest, might be overwhelming for some people because there's just so many things to customize. At the same time, this is also really good because you can actually customize this in so many different ways. If you do get this camera, I recommend just going on the app, trying out all of the different features, just experimenting with different setups. At the end of the day, there's no kind of wrong way to set up the camera, and if something doesn't work, you can just change the setting. There are a few features on this camera that don't really work as well as I'd expect. One is the human tracking. So as you can see from this clip, the camera does a decent enough job of tracking me, But then what happens after you move out of shot is that the camera has to reset itself. And in order to do this, it almost does an entire rotation and sort of resets the entire calibration of the camera. Now, this is actually quite problematic because if someone was breaking into your house, but the camera happened to be tracking somebody else, and while that was happening, was rotating all over the place trying to reset itself, you're not going to have clear footage of whoever it is or whatever you need to see. So personally, I don't use the human tracking setting, but this might be good for different situations. I also don't know if I would trust the infrared detection. I mean, this is supposed to detect things based on heat. So many different factors could throw this off. A hot day, a car is going to be like boiling hot, a person might be cold, hot, whatever. Having a trust in some kind of infrared detection like that, I don't know if I would. Personally, I just use this on human detection and it seems to work a lot better. In general though, I've been incredibly impressed with this camera, especially when you consider the price point. It integrates so easily with your phone and you can also share it with other people as well. So if you have an emergency contact, for example, you can give them access to the app and they can see your camera as well. One feature I really love about this whole camera setup is the fact that you get notifications on your phone. So if someone comes into the camera shot, you will get a notification to say that someone is there. Another feature that I've been really impressed with is the footage during the nighttime. So we do get color night vision on this camera and it looks fantastic. So if you're looking for a camera to pick up footage at night, then this is definitely one to consider. Now, although my experience with the CB8 has been mostly positive, I have had a few issues, one of them being that sometimes the app will tell you that it's unable to connect to the camera or that the picture quality is too high, so to consider changing the quality. Now, I'm on a 1 gigabit Ethernet connection here, and the Wi-Fi around the house is usually around 200 megabits a second, so it should be more than enough for this camera. But obviously, depending on where you place it, how far it is from Wi-Fi routers and things like that, you may have issues. Other problems I've had include some pan and tilt delay, so sometimes when I'm using the pan and tilt function, it just won't do it or say that there's an error. Sometimes it'll be completely fine with no problems at all, so that has been a little bit hit and miss. But it seems that most of these issues are to do with the connection, so maybe there's a bad connection where I am in this room, for example, to the camera, and then it's causing issues with connecting to it. But would those negatives be enough to put me off buying the camera? To be honest, I haven't really experienced them enough for it to be an issue. It happens every now and then and you just kind of wait and do it again and it works fine. So for me, it's never really been a problem, but if you're someone that gets very impatient with things and you don't want any problems at all, then you might want to look at a different camera. When it comes to recording options and features, this camera offers so much. If you're looking for an affordable security system, I definitely recommend this. Since installing it, I definitely feel a lot more comfortable leaving all of my equipment in the house, so this is definitely worth getting just for peace of mind. So that's pretty much it for this review. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like, it really helps out my channel. If you want to see more from me, subscribe, hit that bell icon as well, and you'll be notified when I upload another video. If you have any questions about the product, leave them down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And hopefully I will see you in the next video.